So, Apple announced three new chipsets: M3, M3 Pro, and M3 Max, and they are manufactured on 3 nanometer technology. As usual, Apple have made some bold claims when it comes to the performance of these SoCs. Well, let us see what they have to sell. The M3 chip. It would be the obvious choice for most people. 7.4 times faster video rendering performance than the baseline. A quick glance at the systems under test reveals the machines used for this comparison. A pre-production 14-inch MacBook Pro with M3 and 24 gigabytes of RAM, 24 GB RAM, we will come to this in a while, and 13-inch MacBook Pro with Intel's processor and 16 GB RAM. One may not expect a huge jump in terms of performance when comparing these chipsets with M1, so they ended up comparing these chipsets with Intel's processor from 2019. Well done. Moving to M3 Pro. One may expect a 24.7 times faster 3D rendering performance and 3.1 times faster editing in Premiere Pro. Here we have a 14-inch MacBook with 12-core CPU and 36 GB of RAM up against the baseline, which is a 13-inch MacBook Pro with 2.3 GHz quad-core Intel Core i7 with Intel Iris Plus graphics and 32 GB of RAM. I really would have loved to see this baseline against M3 instead of an inferior system, but this is how it is. Now look at these numbers. M3 Max is expected to render a 3D design 49 times and edit videos 4 times faster than Intel-based MacBooks. But, what are we comparing here? A 2.3 GHz quad-core Intel Core i7 based 13-inch MacBook Pro with Intel Iris Plus graphics and 32 GB of RAM up against 14-inch MacBook Pro systems with Apple M3 Max, 16-core CPU, 40-core GPU, and 128 gigabytes of RAM. 128 gigabytes of RAM. I mean, I won't even think of comparing these machines. Come on, Apple, please give us some unbiased results and stop comparing these machines, these dated machines from 2019. And for the tech nerds out there, this is what the architecture of the chips looks like. All these chipsets have 16-core neural engine and supports hardware accelerated ray tracing. It seems Apple is trying to target the gaming community in near future. One thing to notice, which is really important for the overall system performance but may be easily overlooked, it is the maximum memory bandwidth supported by these devices. Now, what options do we have when it comes to buying machines with these chipsets? Let's have a look. We have two screen size options to choose from, either 14 inches or 16 inches. I personally prefer 14-inch screen size out of the two, so let us check that first. The choice of the chipset is the first decision to be made. Selecting M3 throws two default options to choose from, one with 512 and the other with 1 TB storage option. But the scary thing is the 8 GB memory in both the options. 8 GB of memory. I mean, rupees 1,70,000 or $1,600 for a machine with 8 GB of RAM. That's already a crime. Anyhow, let us just select one and customize it as per our requirements. The first thing to change here is the memory option. If you do not know how much memory you need, selecting 16 GB would be sensible. 8 GB may create immense troubles if your workflow grows, and 32 GB might be an overkill, I feel, considering you do not know if it is required or not. Keeping everything the same, as I feel 512 GB storage should be sufficient. One has to spend approx 1,90,000 rupees or $1,800 to get a MacBook Pro with an M3 chip that would last for many years to come. But seriously, stay away from 8 GB of memory option. I mean, it's already a unified memory, which means that it is shared between the CPU and the GPU, and you cannot upgrade it in future if the need arises. Remember, the comparison by Apple with Intel-based MacBooks was with M3 MacBooks having 24 GB of memory. That would cost you a whopping rupees 210,000 or $2,000 approximately. I think we have a better choice than this one. Selecting M3 Pro, we have 11 core and 12 core options. Both the machines comes with 18 GB memory, which is decent, and 512 GB is sufficient enough too. I would prefer getting an external SSD or creating SSD unit with an external enclosure and NVMe memory, and may still save some money there. Now an M3 machine with 24 GB of memory or M3 Pro with 18 GB of memory but more number of CPU and GPU cores at a lower price point, I will surely choose the second option. I mean, I would still save some cash, have more CPU and GPU cores. 18 GB should really be sufficient unless your workflow demands for more. You may even choose M3 Max chipset and have up to 16 core CPU and 40 core GPU and up to 128 GB of memory if you so desire, but it would make sense only if you have to crush the machine with graphic intensive tasks. The minimum you need to spend for M3 Max is approx 3,20,000 or $3,000 US. Coming to 16-inch models, we are left to choose from M3 Pro and M3 Max. It is an easy choice to make here for M3 Pro. There is no 11-core CPU option. The base model suggests either 18 GB memory for rupees 2,50,000 or $2,499 US, or a 36 GB memory option for rupees 2,90,000 or $2,899 US. If M3 Max is your thing, for a 14-core CPU and 36 GB memory, you need to shed rupees 3,50,000 or $3,499 US, and for 16-core CPU and 48 GB of memory, be ready with rupees 4 lakh or $3,999 US. Now, if you just want to get the best possible configuration without giving a second thought about the pricing, let us see what we can get for what for both the screen sizes. Let's check it out. Going to the 14-inch model first and selecting M3 Max. Let's see what all configuration options we have. So I can select M3 Max chip with 16 core CPU and 40 cores GPU and 128 GB of memory and 8 TB storage. Without adding any extra components, I am getting the machine for $6,899 US or 6,89,900 Indian rupee. I'm selecting the 16-inch model M3 Max and 128 GB of memory and 8 TB of storage. So I have to shed $7,199 US. Wow. I mean, wow. And when it comes to INR, 7,19,900 rupees for 16-inch MacBook Pro with the best possible specifications. The question now is, should you pre-book the machine? Well, if you already have M1 based MacBook, I would rather wait and see the actual results when the new MacBooks are available to try. You may not actually need to upgrade. If you have M2 based MacBook, you don't even need to consider this year's model. If you are on an Intel based MacBook, And if you really need to buy a new MacBook for yourself, you may simply place the order and wait for your machine to arrive. The question is which model to get though. If your main use is browsing internet, making presentations, or other day-to-day business activities, getting the base model with 8 GB memory should be sufficient. If you are a coder, a graphic designer, a video editor, or into music production, I would recommend getting the MacBook Pro with M3 Pro and 18 GB of memory. Please do not order or do not settle for 8 GB option that comes with the M3 base model. If your workflow requires super graphic intensive tasks, you may want to consider M3 Max in that case. Well, there you have it. So which model are you going to get? And do you already have a MacBook with M1 or M2, I mean the Apple Silicon? Do comment and let me know about it. Like, subscribe, and keep rocking. Bye bye.